Athletic is reporting that Sacramento is the front runner to land the A's on that temporary basis. We know that the A's were meeting with officials from Oakland and the county and the city about a lease extension, and we're not sure how that's going, but a source is telling the Athletic apparently it's not going that well. So it's time to find out what's going on from our next guest. Let me tell you something, Jay, about Brodie Brazil.
Yes, sir. Speak on it.
Maybe the most patient man in broadcasting history, because years ago I used to do a feature with Brodie.
Two legends?
Weekly feature about ice hockey. And the patience that Brodie had to exhibit.
The Sharks?
Talking to me about ice hockey every week. I will never forget it. Always appreciated. NBC Sports Bay Area insider on the A's. Brodie Brazil, how are you, Brodie?
It is great to talk with you. Obviously, we go back. Now you have to suffer through me here for this interview. And I don't know how much relevance or insight I can give because there are so many different things out there right now. I'm even having a hard time piecing it all together, putting together what it means, where it's all coming from, what's real, what's not. Today has been a bit of a twister, no lie.
Yeah. Well, I understand that and appreciate your time. Anybody who's interested in this, Brodie has a number of videos at NBC Sports Bay Area that are really, I mean, he's like he was the way you should talk to me about hockey. He looks in the camera and he explains things very surely and steadily. No, really, they're very educational.
They are.
So this may not be fair, Brodie, but the Athletic, as I say, reporting Sacramento is the front runner. Based on what you know, what you've seen, does that make sense to you? Is that the way you see it, or do we just not really know?
I've always thought Sacramento would be a good option. I mean, you consider that the proximity to Oakland, the fact that, and I'm going to call it Rayleigh Field. Sorry, I'm old school.
That's fine.
I'm a 2000s type guy. But it checks a lot of boxes for the A's. I think the fact that they even had that meeting with Oakland, Alameda, and Coliseum officials, just yesterday? And it's crazy. Right after that, it comes out that it was quick. It was cordial. Both sides figured out that they would meet again and there would be further conversations. And then today from the mayor's office that even the prospect of potential guaranteed expansion in Oakland came up, all that. And then all of a sudden, boom, Sacramento from the Athletic is potentially a front runner. But again, going back to the idea that it might be a front runner, no surprise. We all know the official visit that team owner John Fisher and president Dave Kaval made, just a couple weeks ago now. So it all makes a lot of sense. But I just don't know. There's so many logs in the fire right now. Mm-hmm. Tell me why Salt Lake City would not be great competition to that. Tell me why staying in Oakland wouldn't be the absolute easiest thing for the A's to do. I'm not saying that's what they would prefer to do in terms of optics and the kind of lame duck years they would spend at the Coliseum. But Sacramento, to me, has always been one of the top things on the list. There was all that conversation about Summerlin, Nevada, right? The Las Vegas suburb, and they've got the Aviators AAA ballpark, and it's already Las Vegas. But if you're the A's, I don't think you want to start making your first impression in 2025 based on how your baseball team is going to look and how just things have generally been. I don't think they want to go down there until they're absolutely ready. So Northern California and Sacramento have always been, in my opinion, a decision that they should have probably realistically considered, and it's no surprise that they're here right now.
What about this read, Brodie? What do you think of this read on it? Okay, so Oakland meets with the A's. They talk about a lot of things, and apparently, as you say, it's apparent that expansion came up. Is it possible that Oakland asked for a number of things that the A's and or MLB just said, we're not doing that? And so that's why all of a sudden now we're talking about Sacramento's a front runner.
Yeah, it might have been a quick meeting on purpose, not just because both sides planned it that way. It's because, wait, that's how you're starting this? Okay, see you later. We're moving on. We're moving back to Sacramento, right? So it could have been that way. And let's be very honest. I mean, I think Oakland had no choice but to go forward and say, we want one or all of a couple things. We're interested in acquiring half the land, which the A's are about to own half the Coliseum site. Oakland's interested in potentially keeping the name and logo and colors of the Oakland A's. Like, if you want to go relocate, fine, but Oakland wants the rights to hang on to that, like Seattle with the Sonics, or the thought that Oakland could be guaranteed an expansion franchise by Major League Baseball. And I got to say something here. There is actual precedent to that happening because, let's remember how the Oakland A's got to Oakland. Kansas City got the Royals because the A's departed Kansas City. So baseball can sit there and tell you, well, we're not ready to do that. Or, well, we don't have an expansion committee yet formed to make that type of decision. No, you actually could. You've done it before. And in this case, come on, there should be no surprises. We saw how fast relocation was approved unanimously, I know that they could snap their fingers and say, you know what, let's do it like this. A's move to Las Vegas, or that franchise moves to Las Vegas. Oakland, here's your expansion. We'll do all this stuff to flip in 2028. But, you could have to see, right? And Oakland has said they needed some type of trade-off. If they're really going to represent the community, represent taxpayers as elected officials, they have to get something out of this. So no surprise Oakland came into the meeting that way.
Joined by Brodie Brazil of NBC Sports Bay Area. Brodie, there it seems, and we know this, you've been all over this, for the last couple of years. It seems as if the Oakland A's continue to keep getting that deadline pushed further and further and further and further and further off. And I put so many furthers in there because at this point I've lost track.
Yeah.
Can you update me as an Oakland A's fan? And of course I read it, and you started this saying like, look, you're not 100% sure exactly where this is going, but as much as possible, can you update guys like me who's an Oakland A's fan of what is the next deadline that Vegas and baseball has proposed on the Oakland A's to give out some renderings or figure out what you guys want to do?
Well, the Tropicana Hotel will not take your reservation after April 2nd. And I've been, so
I can't go see that Michael Jackson show.
You can't get a $17 room for May, I should say. Sorry, you can for March, not for May. Yeah. So no, it's a great question. And I think even as recently as January, I'm making a YouTube video and I'm doing some research. And I'm thinking, wait, could I book a room at the Tropicana for December of 2024? You absolutely could. So Bally's and GLPI, the owner of the land and the owner of Tropicana, they recently decided, all right, April 2nd is when we're going to stop taking reservations. We're going to close down the hotel after that. Now, instantly people thought, all right, that's a good move, or that's a good new piece of news for the A's. It means that the project is moving forward. But in reality, it means that Bally's and GLPI, they're also part of the other, 26 of 35 acres, right, on that site. It really says that they are going to move on with whatever they're going to do on the site, with or without the A's. And I say that not to be cruel or to lead you on, but like they've kind of set the date that the train is leaving the station. And the moment they close that hotel is the moment that revenues on that site stop. It starts costing them money to have that land and to not have any income. I mean, $17 a night at a time, but still it's gambling money. It's all the money that they make still on a regular basis to have that hotel open. They've decided they're going to shut it down. So that kind of is a hard deadline. Of all the other stuff that is a little bit flexible, that's a hard deadline. The other one is for scheduling purposes of 2025, and you guys going back to the Sacramento side. And I know I totally realize who I'm talking to here, and that's what you guys are most interested in. This kind of fell in your lap too. The other thing would be is, look, the Major League Baseball initial rough draft schedule, that is typically put out, I have it on perfect word, that is usually something that gets floated around in January. The teams look at it, they make revisions, they ask for different things. But pretty much February, March, and into April, the schedule for next year is set. It doesn't come out until July. But here we are, mid-February, and there's a whole team not represented on the map and on the schedule yet of where they might be playing. And some people say, well, it's in the West, and that's not a big deal. No, again, I have it on word from people who would know about these things, and it is a big deal. Scheduling, logistics, all that stuff. So the A's are definitely on the clock to figure out this temporary location thing as much as the ballpark thing sooner than later. I'm talking weeks versus months.
Brodie Brazil with us, A's Insider, NBC Sports Bay Area. And again, if you're interested in this saga, Brodie has some really informative videos that you need to check out. But Brodie, there's so many questions here that we may never know the answers to, but a lot of them you can figure out a possible answer. There's one question here to which I have a hard time coming up with any possible answer, and that is, why has Major League Baseball from the beginning of this process been so willing to bend over backwards to give the A's and give Fisher whatever they want? You want to go where? We'll waive the expansion fee. Why have Major League Baseball owners been so cooperative with this slipshod effort to move the team to Vegas?
Part of it is, the A's have done a really excellent job at getting a lot of things for free, right? You mentioned no relocation fee. They're not paying for the land at all. They're also getting 30 years of property tax exemption in this process. So the A's have maneuvered so many things out of this. In fact, GLPI, the company that owns the land, is actually giving the A's $175 million in addition to the free land. Most of that is to take care of the demolition. But anyway, the point being is, I think some owners would say, well, gosh, how could we say no? I mean, look what they've already lined up. But the other side of it, and I think this is what you were alluding to, is just that it's a fraternity. and Rob Manfred as commissioner. And I can't believe Rob Manfred, some of the things he said, even in the last 48 hours about
come on now.
how A's fans should just look across the bay and say, well, there's
Giants fans.
And that's, look, it's okay to be a fan of both. There's a lot of people in my own close family who are. That's great, no problem. But you're also telling a certain fan base, we're going to make you extinct. And also, for those of you who survive this, you're going to go over there. I just think that Rob Manfred has clearly become a commissioner of the owners, and that's fine. That's who he works for, Major League Baseball. But that means to me, like, who is, the players have a players association. Tony Clark is the head of that. The owners have Rob Manfred. He's the head of baseball as the commissioner. Who represents the customers in all this? And who's looking out for the fans' best interests and community's best interest? There's kind of nobody that represents, if baseball and sports are a triangle like that, fans, owners, and players, who represents the fans in this case? And the answer is, I don't know. And I think that's what's been most clear about this to me. And look, you guys know very well from the entire King saga of 15 years ago. I mean, the commissioner of the NBA, David Stern, at that point, rest in peace, was such more of a champion completely. That's why they named a street after him in downtown Sacramento.
Yeah,
right.
There will never be a Rob Manfred Lane anywhere, I think, on the face of the earth, but especially in Northern California.
Brodie, you like that?
That's
a great point. Yeah. I think part of the real reason, I think a lot of Oakland A's fans are super torn. And let me say, I'm speaking for myself.
Sure.
And maybe Whitey, I'm speaking for you as well.
Fans in this area?
Yeah, well, just Oakland A's fans and all. And this is something that I've watched you put out different videos and different assertions of so many things. And help me here is, at what point is someone, and we know it's not going to happen in baseball, and I think Mayor Tao has done it to a certain extent, but she still has to play ball. At some point, when is someone going to call Rob Manfred out and get him to respond? Like, he's only done one interview, and I can't remember, it was with one of your compadres, I would imagine. Was it NBC?
It was Raj Mathai.
Yes, right. Yeah. And get him to come out of his cocoon. Like, has there been enough call out for John Fisher from your standpoint, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I mean, you can only ask and request so much from somebody. They're not obligated to talk. And what's, I think, interesting is the times that Mr. Fisher has spoken, they've been in Texas after the owners meeting in November, when they approved relocation, and also 2 weeks ago in Nevada at a Chamber of Commerce gala or whatever. It's interesting that I don't think he's ever done a public speaking appearance in the state of California since he's been owner of the A's. I have really no answer to that. You're basically saying how do you force out of him what the public wants to hear, and I just don't think you're ever going to get it. It's a picky choosy situation. There are other front facing people in terms of representing the A's. He's obviously chosen the path that he doesn't want to be that. And it's quite the contrast to him. And look at Vivek, right? He's not hard to find. You want to go find him, go courtside at G1C, right? There he is. It's just, it's an amazing contrast in this day and age. And I would also say this too. I've been watching recently, for example, the Kansas City Royals and what they're trying to do with the new ballpark. And their owner, Mr. Sherman, came out and delivered a whole speech, and he's sitting first row at a lot of the games. And he's out there saying, we're trying to earn your trust. In this case, I mean, the A's are basically a team that has shut off their social media accounts and even commenting on social media posts that they make, and the few and far in between that they still do make. So they've chosen this approach, which, again, I think we are in some of these situations because of the approach they've taken of maybe handling things in a totally different way than most pro sports teams do. I know it was not really the answer to your question, because I don't know that there is an answer to that question.
Yeah.
Brodie Brazil with us. By the way, did you know, Jay, that Brodie is the guy, the trophy that goes to the Bainbridge Series winner?
Oh, no.
Just a piece of that's his idea.
Well,
yes.
Yeah. We had to go all the way Yeah,
I thought it was, Brodie.
yeah.
Wasn't that your idea?
I think it was 2016 or 17. It was right around the time my son was born. I worked with Caltrans. They had just torn the eastern span of the old Bay Bridge down, and I'm like, what connections do I have at Caltrans, right? But sure enough, they're like, we think we can make this work. I'm like, get out of here. They're like, how much do you need? I'm like, 5 pounds. They're like, how about 5,000 pounds? Because we can only cut. So I kid you not, we went out to a scrapyard right by the foot of where the new bridge is, and they said, "Do you want this piece? You take it." And I said, what?" So I work with NBC, work with the A's, work
Wow,
with the Giants.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this exclusively. I've never said this anywhere else before. NBC spent, I want to say, about $10,000 to move that piece of steel, to fabricate.
Wow.
So like we invested in it, but it was for the two teams and all that stuff. But look, I know. Look, I know you say that, and it's been a fun thing. It's been what do you want to say? A polarizing thing for a lot of people. Some people like it, hate it, whatever in between. But if the Bay Area and Northern California loses the two-team sense that we have right now and loses the geographical rivalry, and you know what, full confidence that everybody can be a Giants fan, like that can happen. There's no reason why that can't happen. I'm not suggesting that's the easiest route or that's what anybody feels like they're going to immediately want to do, but I think to change the landscape like this, it's more than just A's fans losing something here. It's the entire region losing something here, and that just stinks. And I know this is part of the business side of sports, and things like this have happened before. Hasn't happened in baseball in a long time, but this whole thing feels more personal the way it's played out than business.
Yeah.
Brodie, I got one more for you. I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but
I love this.
I was going to ask you, about the Sharks power play. We'll have to wait till next time for that. But
you got to shoot the puck more. That's all. Yeah,
that's what I think. Seriously, and I know nobody knows, so we're not going to hold you to this. What do you think are the chances that this A's move to Vegas for one reason or another just falls apart completely and the A's never go there?
My number has fluctuated a lot. If you asked me a year ago at this time, before April 19th and the big announcement, 5%, and then up to 9%, and then up to honestly like 90% after the public money went through, and a lot of things happened this summer. But I think that 90% has dwindled back down to a 50-50 proposition. And I want to be careful when I say that, because the next thing that it's going to come out of my mouth is that does not necessarily mean that the A's will stay in Oakland. That also does not necessarily mean that Sacramento will be an interim host, or quite honestly, maybe land the A's in an interim fashion and then keep them because Las Vegas flops. I mean, there's so many elements to this, but I truly think it is back to a 50-50 situation in Las Vegas. Like, Bally's having some financial issues. Obviously, there must be some reasons. We haven't seen renderings and private financing from the A's. There's too much that they would love to boast about and show you, but they haven't yet. They can't. So in my opinion, at this point, and I could be proven wrong, and that number could go right back up to 90% in a split second within a matter of a couple days and a couple major things. But as of right now, based on the timing of things, what we have seen, what we haven't seen, it's just 50-50 down there. And it still could largely happen, but I think the other 50% of its side will let you know that this thing is far from done.
Let me say this, and Brodie, you've been on our show, going back to when DC was here, Doug Christie was here. I will say this, man, as much as I've watched you and watched, so many of your, constituents with you, Casey Pratts, the guys like that, this conversation as an Oakland A's fan, and of course being in this industry, and me and Whitey going back and forth, man, I appreciate it, because it brings a little more clarity as I, within my own mind. As me and Whitey for the last 2 hours have argued about and tussled with the fact that if they come to Sacramento, would we go?
Yeah, and it makes you, all that uncertainty makes you anxious. And Brodie, there's a lot of fans here who are kind of torn, because we hear from, Oakland A's fans who say, hey, everybody in Sacramento, you remember what it was like when you almost lost your team. Please don't support this. On the other hand, it's like, Aaron Judge is down the street, potentially. So it's really, we're on the horns of a moral dilemma here. If it comes to that, not sure what to do. So what do we do about that, Brodie?
do you want to be Anaheim? Do you want to be Seattle? What was the guy's name up in Seattle who had officially bought the team?
Chris Hansen.
Yeah.
Chris Hansen, right?
Chris Hansen, yeah. So, I mean, do you really want to be that guy? You want to be, a lot of times we say that in life. Do you want to be that guy? No, but it's, how could you say no to that? I totally understand it. I've said all along, A's fans have posed to me, what are you going to do personally, professionally? You're going to be a fan? You're going to work in Vegas? And my answer is like, there's no playbook for this. All of this stuff is so far fetched from even our thoughts 5 years ago that there's no right. I won't criticize anybody for whatever they think or do or however they handle this situation. And I think time will present a better answer on that. And if it really comes to fruition in Sacramento, and we'll see. Oh, technically, guys, West Sacramento. Okay, you cross that river, you're in West Sac.
Yolo County.
Hey, score it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a 5'10" guy originally, but 415-925. I stopped through the 916. Like I'm just saying, but
Nice.
But no, I love all you up there, and I appreciate even the fact that you're cognizant of that and you're thinking about that. And that's not like, hey, because you know what, in Las Vegas, you know what they're saying? No, we'll take your team. You doubt us, we'll do whatever we want. I mean, and not all of them, but there is an arrogance down there that they can just make anything work. And it's like, I don't know that you know the entire situation here, but you guys do. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And by the way, I just flashed back on something. I remember when you and I used to talk every week with Dibs and Kreids, and the NHL where they have they would play outdoors. And I remember you and I saying on the radio, hey, they should play on Lake Tahoe. You remember that? And they did, Brodie. They did it. It was a terrible idea.
Trying to piss me off because the two teams they invited, one of them was the Golden Knights. They were like, Tahoe's in Nevada. You know who plays in Nevada? The Las Vegas Golden Knights. And you're like, wait. Do the math of how far away Vegas to Tahoe is versus Tahoe to the Bay Area.
You're right.
You idiots. That's our team. That's our region. Dummies.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No,
I didn't mean to take you down.
I'm. You know what? This is the true broadcaster in me. Because if we were really having this conversation, I would have dropped a few bombs in there.
All right, Brodie. Thank you. We appreciate it very much. We hope to talk to you again soon. Have a great weekend.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for the support and having me on. And you know what? The attention you guys put on this. That also, I know it's the All-Star break and you're away from the Kings for a little bit, but that in itself can't be appreciated enough. So thank you so much for bringing this topic up.
You got it. The great Brodie Brazil. Meanwhile, Manfred manages to insult A's fans again. We're right back with that. Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Bonnie.
I'm Mark Finan in the KCRA3 Weather Center.